Everyone in Coldwater County used to joke that the lake never gave anything back. Not bodies, not answers, not the truth. People vanished there, and the sheriff always blamed drunk boating accidents or bad weather. But anyone who'd lived there long enough knew the truth. The lake didn't drown people, kept them, and sometimes it sent something back instead. Tonight, that something was standing on the porch of an old cabin, silent, motionless, and horribly wrong. And inside the cabin, a man who thought he was alone finally realized he wasn't. The cabin looked smaller than Ethan remembered. Maybe because he hadn't seen it in 13 years, or maybe because the last time he stood on this porch, he was 17 and convinced he was immortal. Back then, the world felt wide and distant and simple. Now, at 30, everything felt heavy, like life had been quietly piling weight on his shoulders while he wasn't paying attention. He set his duffel bag down and stretched his back. Same creaking boards beneath his feet. Same rusted lantern hanging beside the door. Same scent of pine and lake water drifting through the air. But there was something else too. Something faint. Something off. He tried to ignore it. He wanted this trip to be peaceful, even though he knew it wasn't going to be. He hadn't come to relax. He'd come because of the call. "Sir, this is Sheriff Hartwell. There's been a development regarding your brother." Those words had torn something open in him. He'd left town after his brother Logan disappeared, but the guilt had never left him. Logan had gone missing right here at this exact lake during an early morning fishing trip. His boat was found drifting near the south dock. No body, no blood, no signs of a struggle, just his tackle box, just his jacket, just a half-finished sandwich. People whispered theories. Some blamed the currents. Some blamed drugs. Some said Logan ran away. Some said he jumped. But Ethan never believed any of that. Logan wasn't the type to run, and he sure as hell wasn't the type to abandon his family. Now, 13 years later, the sheriff claimed they found something. That was the whole reason Ethan was here. He unlocked the cabin door. It resisted for a second, then swung inward, groaning like it hadn't been opened in a long time. Dust floated in the slanted evening light. Same old layout. Same old stone fireplace. Same faded couch. But the weird smell he sensed outside hit him harder inside. Like damp earth mixed with metal, copper, something strange. He stepped into the living room, scanning slowly. Nothing seemed disturbed, yet the air felt subtly rearranged, like someone had moved through recently. Maybe an animal got in through a window. Maybe the sheriff had been here earlier. Maybe Ethan was just paranoid. He shut the door behind him. The click echoed a little too loudly. Outside, the lake was silent. Too silent. He tossed his keys on the table and headed to the kitchen to check the plumbing. The cabin had no running water the last time he was here, and he didn't want surprises. He twisted the faucet. The water sputtered, coughed, then came out rusty red. For a split second, it looked exactly like blood. He clenched his jaw. Relax. Old pipes. Mineral buildup. Not everything has to be sinister just because you're nervous. The water eventually turned clear. He splashed some on his face and leaned over the sink. He looked exhausted. Eyes sunken. Beard uneven. Stress clinging to every line of his face. He wiped his face on his sleeve and headed to the living room. The sheriff said he'd stop by tonight. Said he had something Ethan needed to see. Didn't explain more. Ethan hated cryptic bullshit, but he didn't argue. He needed answers more than he needed comfort. He pulled open the sliding door and stepped onto the back deck overlooking Hollow Pine Lake. The water was still. Completely still. Not a ripple. Not a breeze. Not a sound. No birds. No insects. Not even the usual drifting chatter from weekend fishermen. Just silence. He leaned on the railing, staring across the water. When he was a kid, he used to believe the lake held secrets. That it remembered things. Logan used to laugh at him for that. But Ethan knew his brother didn't truly laugh. He wasn't making fun of him. He was just trying to keep Ethan from being scared. Now the lake looked like a sheet of dark glass. And for a brief second, just one faint, fleeting second, Ethan thought he saw a shape beneath the surface. Long, human-shaped, drifting. He blinked hard and it was gone. "Get a grip," he muttered. A sudden knock at the front door nearly made him jump. He walked back inside and opened it. Sheriff Hartwell stood there, hat tucked under his arm, his expression unusually stiff. Ethan always remembered him as a man who relied too much on coffee and not enough on sleep. But right now he looked genuinely unsettled. "Evenin', Ethan," Hartwell said. "Mind if I come in?" "You said you had something," Ethan replied. "Just tell me." "I will. But inside." Ethan stepped aside. Hartwell walked in, glanced around the cabin, then shut the door behind him. "You been here long?" the sheriff asked. "Just got in." The sheriff nodded like he expected that answer. "Then you probably haven't noticed anything unusual." Ethan frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Hartwell reached into his jacket and took out a small Ziploc bag. Inside was something metallic, dull, and rusted. A key. Ethan stared at it without understanding. Hartwell spoke slowly. "This was found 2 days ago. A diver discovered it wedged between rocks about 20 feet down near the south side of the lake." Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Okay. So?" Hartwell handed him the bag. Ethan held it up to the light. The key looked old, maybe decades old. But attached to it, rusted but readable, was a small stamped tag. Cabin 12. Ethan's throat tightened. Cabin 12 was this cabin. His family's cabin. The cabin his grandparents built. The cabin he and Logan grew up visiting. The cabin where Logan stayed the night before he disappeared. Ethan's voice turned sharp. "What does this mean? Why was this underwater?" Hartwell exhaled. "We don't know. But that's not the part you need to worry about." He paused too long. Ethan's patience snapped. "Just say it." Hartwell pressed his lips together. There were fingerprints on the key. Ethan's pulse kicked hard. Hartwell continued, each word slow and precise. "Partial. Faint. But enough for identification." Ethan felt like he already knew what was coming, but he didn't want to believe it. "They belong to your brother," Hartwell said. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, the silence louder. "That's not possible," Ethan said quietly. "I'm not saying he's alive," Hartwell replied carefully. "I'm saying someone or something put that key there recently enough that the prints weren't washed off. Which means either Logan didn't drown," he hesitated, "or he didn't drown in the way we assumed." Ethan felt the world tilt. He stared out at the lake. For years he tried to make peace with what happened. But now that peace felt like a lie the lake had whispered to him to keep him away. Hartwell's voice dropped. "There's one more thing. I didn't want to tell you until I was sure." Ethan turned to him. "What?" Hartwell swallowed. "The diver who found the key, he quit the same day. Said he saw something under the water. Said it looked like a person." Ethan's skin prickled. "And?" he asked. Hartwell's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "He said the person had no face." The words hung in the cabin like smoke, heavy and suffocating. Ethan could feel them settling into the corners, curling around the furniture, filling the room with tension. No face. The diver's description was impossible, but it gnawed at him anyway, an itch he couldn't scratch. He turned back to the window, to the black glass of Hollow Pine Lake. Moonlight glittered faintly on the water, revealing nothing, yet suggesting that something was lurking just beneath the surface. A faint ripple moved against the natural rhythm of the lake, almost like the water itself was breathing. Ethan's stomach tightened. His mind screamed, it can't be Logan. Not like that. But every instinct he'd honed over the years, the instinct that had kept him alive through broken relationships, dead-end jobs, and endless guilt, told him that Logan was out there, somehow. And if Logan was out there, the lake had claimed him in ways no one dared explain. Hartwell cleared his throat. "I know this is hard to hear, Ethan, but the diver, he swore he saw something move under the water when he brought up the key. He said it wasn't human, but it was your brother." Ethan laughed bitterly, the sound hollow in the empty cabin. "Not human? That's absurd." Yet he couldn't deny the weight behind the sheriff's voice. Hartwell had been a practical man his entire career. He didn't deal in fairy tales. Hartwell stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You need